and welcome to another episode of the Tetra Travels. This week I took an adventure to Greece, and specifically to Athens. Had a really good time and thought I'd share you along for the ride, but also just show how accessible it is, and had a really great time. It's the first holiday I've taken for about 3 years due to COVID. I know it's still an issue, but eventually I just got sick of it and decided I'm going to have a week away. And it was really worth it, really helped my mental health, and just to get back out there and see some of the world again really made a big difference to me, so I'm glad I did it. Obviously, there was a bit of trepidation getting on a plane and things for the first time in a few years, but it all turned out okay in the end, so that was good. We flew with EasyJet, and although overall the ride was pretty smooth, there were a few small issues that I thought weren't very accessible. So one of them being the self-service baggage check-in machines. Firstly, they're really high up, and secondly, I just don't think they're suitable for a disabled person at all. The access queue only had a self-service machine, with one member of staff seeming to do about 10 machines and often just not being visible at all. So when we got there, I had a problem with my baggage, didn't know what to do, had to wait for staff, couldn't touch the screen myself. So that was all rather frustrating, and it meant the access queue was getting longer and longer. So that really didn't help matters. It also meant that when it came to checking in my wheelchair, which I normally just ask the person I need a baggage tag for my wheelchair, it's all done really quickly. But actually, it didn't get done for ages because we had to find a member of staff to say, what do we do? How do we log it in? Where are we taking it? All of that kind of thing. So that really didn't help, and it meant that we actually got delayed going through security, etc., and were suddenly rushing for the plane and didn't have a chance to get any food. So that really wasn't great. The other issue that was caused by this is that there was no one there who was actually looking out for disabled people. So no one actually think to ask me, are my wheels on my chair powered or not? I actually have battery powered wheels that help me get around. They are certified to be able to fly on a plane, but there's certain things you have to do to them, like you put them in aeroplane mode and you discharge some of the battery, which I was going to do all of those things, but no one asked me like, oh, is it powered so they can do the paperwork for them. I didn't realise this was going to be an issue until we got on the plane, where it suddenly turned out the pilot and the baggage handlers were really not happy taking my wheelchair because the paperwork hadn't been done. In the end, they brought them onto the cabin so that we could fly, because if they're in the cabin, they can be monitored. But it caused an issue, and it meant that we actually had a delayed flight. So that could have all been avoided just by having a check-in desk for access clients that wasn't like a computerized system and actually was a member of staff. The other big issue that I would say was the most frustrating thing was when we were being delayed. Obviously, it was me in my chair causing the issue, but no one else on the flight knew that. It wasn't my fault. It was the fault of the EasyJet company for not asking. I'd done all the thing. I even carried a certificate to say I could fly with the wheels. But suddenly, after about half an hour delay, the pilot comes over the tannoy and announces that there's a delay because of a baggage check. And then he suddenly pauses and then he goes, it's actually a wheelchair, which felt very targeted, especially as I'd been wheeled onto the plane in front of a lot of people. So a lot of people on that plane knew I was the only wheelchair user on the aircraft. So it felt very much like they were pointing me out as being like, he's the reason we're late. I felt like that could have caused issues in terms of people like could have got aggressive towards me, could have got frustrated towards me. Luckily, none of that happened, but I really didn't think it was acceptable to use that kind of language on a tannoy in front of loads of people and point out one particular customer. So I will be complaining to EasyJet about that, and I think it was just a slip up on one pilot, so I won't tar the whole company for that reason, but it was not right, and I was very unhappy at the time. All in all, though, we did actually get to the destination okay, and the flight was fine, the seats were comfortable, and yeah, we got there nearly on time in the end, but yeah, a little bit late, but not too bad. So overall, the experience was better than I expected because the access staff got me on and off pretty quickly, and had no issues that way. When we got there, I was pretty exhausted, but we'd already booked a taxi. I'll put the link for the taxi company in the area below. They're really useful if you need access issues. They've got 3 or 4 taxis that are fully adapted. One Mercedes Sprinter big van that can fit about 8 or 9 people in it, and a couple of VW Caddies that maybe fit 3 or 4 people. So we use those quite a lot getting around Athens. They were a bit on the pricey side, but if you're on holiday, I just found the ease of it was really helpful, and yeah, made the holiday a lot nicer. So the transfer to the hotel went really smoothly because of the taxi being pre-booked. So that all was really nice, and got in at a reasonable time into the hotel at about 11 p.m. But yeah, we were pretty tired by that point. We stayed in the Moxie in Athens. It was overall pretty good. The staff were really friendly and the access was pretty good. My issues with it were that the beds were pretty high, so they were like very difficult to get in and out of for me. Because the beds were so high, it was quite difficult to transfer in and out. But we managed. I would say that I'm reasonably strong and had a good carer that could help do the transfer. But yeah, a lot of people would really struggle with that, so that was a big issue. The bathroom itself I thought was great, really good, like the good handrails, good floor. The only thing there was that the drain wasn't necessarily at the bottom of the slope, so it did mean there was a bit of flooding, but the cleaning staff came in every day and that was all sorted, so that was good. My other big issue is that there was no way to push the beds together. The access rooms only came in twin rooms, and so if you wanted to have a double bed, that wouldn't be an option, which I think's a bit unfair that disabled people can't have a double bed if they wanted to. So that is also something that I am going to raise with the Marriott group who run the Moxie chain, because yeah, a lot of disabled people do like to travel with a partner. The hotel was in an area called Omonia. It was actually a really good area for access. Like the hotel was on the square, and the metro was like the station was there with a lift, about 2 minute like walk away, and all the metro was really accessible. I'll show you some footage of that in this video. But yeah, also just around the area there's lots of like bakeries and cafes, and it was just although the area was a bit rough around the edges, it was somewhere that you could kind of like quite happily chill out and find a nice place to eat. And yeah, it wasn't too bad. It's quite central, really close to all the sort of tourist destinations. So yeah, I definitely recommend it as a place to stay. But beware, it's not really like a touristy area. It's more like a business area and city area. So it's not necessarily like really nice to look at or like perfectly polished like some of the touristy areas. But it's really close to those areas and like really accessible. When we woke up on day one, frankly, we were all knackered, so we decided to have a really lazy day. I don't think I got up until about 11 o'clock, and then once I was up, I decided that we're just going to walk around the local area and see what we could see. I'll show a bit of footage of that. We saw like a little ruins that was quite near the hotel in a different square, and then went for like a bit of food at one of the local bakeries. They had an amazing selection of baklava, which was far too sweet, and I stuffed myself far too much on. It's easy to get carried away when there's something you like, but you soon realise that you're going to be sick. But yeah, we ended up eating at that bakery most days just because it was like easy to get to, really tasty, and like yeah, it was sort of convenient. And then eating somewhere different every night after that. So yeah, I thought the bakeries out there were really fantastic. And then at the end of the night, we actually just found like a local kebab shop. We kind of figured that the kebab in Greece should be much better than England, and it was. I was going to film it, but then I realised I'd eaten half of it before I remembered. So there's a bit of footage in there, but maybe not the best. But it tasted amazing, and yeah, you know what you're getting is the real stuff out there. day 2 was our busiest day. We took the metro, which is, as I said before, really accessible. I'll show you a bit of footage of that. And then we took that to the Acropolis. First we did the Acropolis Museum, and then followed that up by the Acropolis itself. I'm going to share lots of footage of it, and I'm going to do some voiceovers as we go along, so hopefully you understand what it was like. And yeah, but I was overall really impressed by the day, and yeah, it was really fantastic to be able to see these places. A lot of ancient sites wouldn't be accessible, but the Greeks have really done a good job of trying to make it as accessible as possible. As you can see from here, the metro was really accessible. There was lifts all the way down, and it was a very level platform. Some of the trains, like the silver one, were a bit older, which weren't so great, but these new ones that came next were fantastic, but both were easily doable. Just one was aircon as well, which really helped, given the really hot Greece heat. We started off at the Acropolis Museum. A word of warning, although the Acropolis stays open till 8, the Acropolis Museum only stays open till 4. We didn't realise that, so we had to do a really short whistle-stop tour within about 45 minutes around the museum, so definitely arrived there earlier. We were doing that because the heat in Greece at the time was over 30 degrees, so I found that by going out in the afternoon it was a lot cooler, so we sort of had lazy mornings and went out later on in the day. Most of the attractions stayed open, so it didn't really matter, and I think it's a really good way to do it. After the museum, we went to the Acropolis itself. They actually had a buggy that took me up to the lift, which was really helpful because it was quite a way round. And yeah, I'd never actually seen one of these before, but actually a wheelchair accessible buggy. I think they should have more of these in England at events, to be honest. I would recommend getting a taxi to the actual entrance where this buggy was though, as there was a big cobbled road I had to wheel up, which took a long time and didn't do my chair the best of damage. So yeah, definitely get a taxi to this point, I'd recommend. We then tried the lift that goes up the Parthenon walls up to the Acropolis at the top. It's a brand new lift that was installed a couple of years ago. It's really fantastic, but it is actually quite scary if you don't like heights. I'm fine with heights, and even I found it a bit on the awkward side. It creaks and rattles quite a lot, and yeah, it's all glass, so maybe not one for the faint of heart, but it's really worth it if you can get up there to the top. We had a really good time at the top. Actually, they've put new concrete ramps down all over the place, so a lot of it you can get around really easily. It did have some complaints that they were not treating the zone with respect, but I think they did it really well. They didn't damage any of the actual artifacts, but it just meant that people like me could actually get around really easily. So I think that's a big thumbs up to Greece. found there's no accessible toilet at the top of the Parthenon, so if you need the toilet, please go beforehand. That actual area was where the toilets were, but they were downstairs and over gravel, so yeah, definitely go beforehand. Day 3 we wanted to be a bit more relaxed, so I actually called the taxi company the day before and said, can they take us out to a lake? The lake was called, and bear with me on this, Lake Vuliagmeni, and I probably said that completely wrong, but it was really amazing. It was about a 40-minute taxi drive out there and 40 minutes back. I think they charged me about 60 quid each way, or 60 euros each way, so it wasn't cheap, but I was really glad we did it. We'd heard about this place. It's like a saltwater sort of thermal lake that is near the coast, but it also has fish that kind of peck away at the dead skin cells on your body. So I'd heard about this place and thought it sounded really interesting. But the other thing that appealed was it said that it had a access hoist and good accessible changing rooms and things. So I thought it's a great chance to have a swim in a pretty safe environment, but also just cool off a bit because the weather was about 34 degrees. So yeah, thought I'd give it a go, and actually it was really fantastic. So I'll share a bit of footage of it. But yeah, if you're going out to Athens, I fully recommend it as a day trip. Yeah, really worthwhile. I'll just do a quick demonstration of how I got in. I asked one of the lifeguards if they could help me, and my PA sort of helped from the front. It was quite a height into the water, so once I was into the chair, I did actually get strapped in. I don't usually do that, but I felt a bit more confident just having that bit of support. But yeah, it was actually really well set up. The people around were quite willing to help, and yeah, I was really pleased I did it. I'll also say I feel like this might be a really good place for other disabilities, like people with sensory disabilities, etc. It's just a really interesting experience having the fish come up to you and sort of suckle on you. So I think it might just be a really interesting experience for all sorts of disabilities like autism, etc. So yeah, definitely worth a visit. Whatever your condition, I'd definitely recommend it. Toilets and things were really well set up. They had a changing room with a shower, they had another changing room with a chair that you could access down the bottom, had lockers, everywhere was flat, So yeah, it was a really well set up place, and yeah, really excellent from an access point of view. The holiday didn't stop there, but for now I'm going to put that as part one. Otherwise, this video is going to get ridiculously long. So I'm going to do a part two next week. I hope you're enjoying the video so far. I certainly had a great holiday, and I'm enjoying sort of remembering the memories of what I got up to while I was out there. So yeah, I look forward to doing part two, and see you next week. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, especially if you want to see next week's video. But yeah, we've got lots of good stuff coming up. And yeah, I'm hoping to bring out more and more videos showing what access is like in various places. Yeah, got like amazing things coming up this year. I'm going to be doing a track day in a couple of weeks, so I'll be posting something on that. And then later on in the year, I'm hoping to go out to Qatar for the World Cup, so I'll do a bit of an update on what's going on there. But yeah, really looking forward to it all.